The sun on Griven 7 was not bright. It was pale and dusty, like everything else on the planet. The wind always carried sand. It slipped into clothes, into food, even into dreams. Mira sat on the ground beside a broken wall. Her hands were tied. She wore an old cloth that used to be blue but now looked gray. Her face was thin, and her eyes looked far away, as if they were trying to remember something better. 3 scavengers stood a few steps away, talking to a thick alien trader named Volric. Volric looked like a walking pile of armor with eyes too small for his wide face. He laughed as he pointed at Mira. "This is what you bring me? A broken human girl," he said with a heavy voice. "She can walk, talk, and clean machines." One scavenger replied. Volric spat on the ground. "So can my bots. You want something for nothing?" The second scavenger asked. "We need water and 1 power cell." Volric laughed again. "She's worth half a bottle of water. Maybe less." The third scavenger leaned closer. "Come on, humans are rare. Even if she's no good, you can sell her to the junk pits." Volric scratched his chin. "Fine. 1 power cell. No water." The deal was made. The scavengers didn't even look back at Mira. They grabbed the cell, ran to their rusted vehicle, and left a cloud of dust behind. Mira said nothing. She was used to being passed from hand to hand. To most in the galaxy, humans were forgotten. Creatures left behind after Earth fell in a silent war no one talked about anymore. Mira didn't remember much of Earth. She remembered sky. She remembered trees. She remembered holding someone's hand, but not who. Volric dragged her into his market stall. It smelled like oil, metal, and mold. He pushed her into a cage made of thick glass and left her beside broken robot parts and cracked tools. The cage door slammed shut with a loud sound. "You sit there and stay quiet," Volric said. Mira sat in the corner. She did not cry. She had cried before. Now her tears stayed hidden inside her. Time passed slowly. Outside the cage, buyers came and went. No one looked at her. A few laughed. A few made rude jokes. Mira ignored them all. One day, a tall man in a long dark cloak walked into the market. His steps were slow, calm, and he did not carry weapons like others. His face was mostly covered, but his eyes were sharp and quiet. His name was Roan. But Mira did not know that yet. Roan walked past old ships and tools, past cages full of broken droids. He stopped in front of Mira's cage. Volric walked over. "Looking for something, traveler?" Roan pointed at Mira. "What's her price?" Volric raised an eyebrow. "That thing. She's no use. Human small. Weak." Roan said nothing. "She's quiet though," Volric added. "Doesn't cause trouble. You want her?" Roan nodded once. "Give me your best star map, and she's yours," Volric said, testing him. Roan opened a small case from his belt. Inside was a rare map chip, glowing blue. It showed ancient routes through unmarked parts of the galaxy. Worth more than any tool in the shop. Volric's eyes widened. "You're serious?" Roan handed him the chip. "Deal," Volric said quickly, unlocking the cage. Mira didn't move. Roan stepped forward. He reached out a hand, slow and careful. Mira looked at him. No one had offered her a hand in a long time. She took it. They walked out together into the bright dust. The Sunreach was not a large ship. It was old, shaped like a crescent moon, and full of small noises and warm lights. Roan brought Mira inside and let her sit in the co-pilot seat. He handed her a bottle of clean water and a fresh food pack. She ate in silence. Later, Roan guided the ship away from Griven 7. Stars blinked into view as they entered open space. Mira sat by the window, eyes wide. The stars looked alive. She had seen space before, but only from cages and crates. Now she was free to look as long as she wanted. Roan checked the systems. Then he turned to her. "You have a name?" he asked. "Mira," she said softly. "I'm Roan," he replied. Mira looked down. "Why did you take me?" Roan paused. "Because you were not where you belonged." Mira said nothing. Roan stood up and pointed toward the hallway. "There's a room you can use. Clean it as you like." Mira nodded and stood slowly. She walked down the hall, still holding the water bottle. She looked into the small room. It was plain, with a simple bed, a locker, and a light on the wall. She sat on the bed and placed the bottle beside her. She was free. She was scared. But deep inside, where even pain could not reach, something small and strong began to stir. A beginning. Mira woke to the soft hum of the ship. It was a sound she had never heard in a cage. It was not loud or angry. It was calm, like a sleeping animal. She sat up and looked around the small room. Roan had given her. The light on the wall gave off a warm glow. The bed was firm but clean. For the first time in years, she had slept without chains. She washed her face at the small sink and folded the blanket neatly. Her hands moved with habit, quiet and fast. She had always cleaned things in the past, always worked, but this time, it felt different. No one had shouted at her. No one had threatened her. The work was hers to choose. Mira stepped into the hallway and followed the sound of tools. She found Roan in a small control room, working on a broken panel. Sparks jumped from a wire. But Roan stayed focused. He was careful and quiet. He looked up when he heard her. "You slept well?" he asked. She nodded. "Good. Hungry?" Mira hesitated. Roan stood up and handed her a pack of warm food and a drink bottle. She sat at the table nearby and began eating slowly. Roan returned to his work. He did not stare at her. He did not speak unless needed. Mira watched him from the corner of her eye. He was not like others she had met before. After breakfast, Mira stood. "I can help," she said. Roan looked at her. "You know how to fix things." "I learned from watching," she replied. "Machines, wires, tools. I remember things." He handed her a small scanner. "This ship always needs help." She took it with both hands. From that day, Mira worked beside Roan. She cleaned old parts and repaired small systems. When the ship lights blinked, she found the cause. When the engine made a strange sound, she traced the line. Roan guided her. When needed but let her learn on her own. In the evenings, they ate together. Roan shared stories of different planets, old spaceways, and strange creatures. Mira listened with quiet eyes, asking questions now and then. One night, Roan pointed to a map on the screen. "This is the crown space," he said. "They take planets one by one." Mira leaned forward. "Why do they take them?" "They want control," Roan answered. "They say it's for peace. But people lose their homes, their names, their choices." "Did they take Earth?" she asked. Roan nodded. "Long ago, Earth burned from inside. The crown did not save it. They just watched." Mira looked at the stars, and no one stopped them. "Many tried," Roan said. "Few succeeded." Mira's fingers tightened around the edge of the table. "Then we must become more than few." Roan said nothing, but he watched her with careful eyes. He saw something growing in her. Not hate, not fear, something sharper, something steadier. The next day, they landed on a small spaceport called Kellen Station. Roan needed fuel and knew cables for the ship. Mira followed him through the narrow paths of the market. She kept her hood up and her eyes low, but she saw everything. Merchants shouted prices. Bots rolled past with goods. Tall aliens moved in slow groups. The station felt alive, but not free. At one corner, Mira saw a group of children sitting on the ground. Their clothes were torn. A large alien shouted at them to leave. One small boy dropped a piece of bread, and the alien kicked it into the dirt. Mira stepped forward. Roan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not here," he said. Mira looked up at him. "They're just children." Roan nodded. "I know." That night, Mira did not sleep. She sat near the window of the ship, watching lights blink on and off in the distance. She thought about the boy. She thought about her own past. She had been that child once, alone, pushed aside, thrown away. Roan came and sat beside her. "You want to help everyone," he said. "Yes," she replied. "It's not easy," he said. "I know," she answered. He looked at her for a long time. "You could stay here," Roan said. "Fine work. Live quiet. No one would bother you." Mira turned to him. "Is that what you want?" Roan shook his head. What do you want, Mira? She looked out at the stars. Her voice was soft, but strong. I want to learn. I want to grow. Strong. I want to help those who have no voice. I don't want to hide. Rowan gave a slow nod. Then we start small. He said. Mira smiled for the first time. The next morning, they left Kellen Station and flew toward the edge of Crown Space. Rowan showed Mira how to read star paths and how to mark danger zones. She practiced steering the ship in open space, her hands firm on the controls. She studied every system. She asked questions about history, about law, about the Crown and its leaders. Rowan answered what he knew. When he did not know, he said so. Mira respected that. As days passed, Mira began to change. Her steps grew steady, her voice more sure. She was still quiet, but now people listened when she spoke. Rowan noticed. She had been traded like scrap, left behind like dust, but she had not broken. She was choosing her own path now, and the stars were waiting. The ship moved through deep space, quiet and steady, outside the window. Stars passed like silver dust. Inside the cabin, Mira sat alone, her hands resting on a folded cloth. Rowan had gone to check the power systems. She had time to think. Her heart was full, but her mind was heavy. She had waited for this moment, a place safe enough, a person kind enough, but the story she carried was not easy. It was not a tale for anyone. It was for someone who had seen truth, who had offered help without asking for reward. That someone was Rowan. She stood and walked to the main control room. Rowan was working with a wrench under one of the panels. He heard her footsteps and looked up. All clear, he said with a nod. Engine stable again. Mira gave a small smile. Then she sat on the bench across from him. I need to tell you something, she said. Rowan put down the tool and leaned against the wall. He saw the change in her face. This was not about machines or fuel. This was something else. I'm listening, he said. Mira looked down for a moment, then slowly raised her eyes. I was not born in chains, she began. I was born on a world called Tira. It is far from here, hidden beyond a broken gate. Rowan frowned. Tira? I've never heard of it. You wouldn't, Mira said. Tira was not on maps. It was peaceful. My people believed in silence, in balance, in watching the stars. We didn't fight. We didn't trade much. We lived. Simply, my mother was a diplomat. My father studied ancient languages. I grew up with books, not weapons. She paused. One day, ships came. Not many, just 5. But they were fast and armed. No one expected harm. We had always been ignored. But this time, it was different. She closed her eyes for a moment. They took us without a fight. The Crown was not behind it. These were private collectors, traders who wanted rare mines and rare blood. They took children, mostly girls. They tested our memory, our learning, our silence. They chose the ones they thought would obey. Rowan stayed quiet. His jaw was tight, his hands resting in his lap. They took me because I could remember things fast. Codes, symbols, patterns. I could read maps even when they were broken. One of them said I had a clean mind. They called it a gift. She looked straight at Rowan. They trained me, not with kindness, with cold routines, for 2 years. I was passed between ships, made to learn and obey. But I never forgot where I came from. I never forgot Tira. Rowan spoke for the first time. What happened to your family? Mira's voice was soft. I don't know. I was only 16 when they took me. My mother fought back. I never saw her again. My father was injured. They left him behind, I think. The others were scattered. Some were taken, some escaped. I've dreamed of finding them ever since. Rowan looked away, his eyes on the blinking stars outside. And the rest of your people? Tira was erased, she said. Not destroyed. Just hidden. Wiped from records. Even the Crown didn't notice. They didn't care about one quiet planet. That's why no one came. She pulled something from her sleeve. It was a thin piece, a folded metal. She handed it to Rowan. He unfolded it and saw a small map drawn in clean lines. Symbols marked places, lines showed paths, and one red dot glowed softly at the center. This is Tira's Stargate, Mira said. It's broken now, but I know the path. It leads to a safe place. My people call it the Ember Fold. Only a few knew the way. Roan stared at the map. Why give this to me? He asked. Because I trust you, she said. You gave me space to breathe. You listened. You didn't want anything in return. You treated me like a person, not a tool. And I know you don't want to live in a broken galaxy. Neither do I, Roan. Folded the map and handed it back. We'll find this place, he said. We'll go together. Mira smiled. There's more, she added. The Emberfold is not just a place to hide. It's a vault. My people stored knowledge there. Codes, old tech, even secrets of the crown. If we can reach it, we might find something that can change everything. Roan's eyes lit with purpose. Then we have work to do, he said. That night, they adjusted the ship's course. Mira entered the coordinates herself, her fingers steady. Roan stood beside her, watching her face as she guided them toward the unknown. The stars outside did not change, but something had shifted inside the ship, to people. Both from broken pasts, were now moving towards something new. Not revenge. Not power. Hope. The stars outside the window were calm, but inside the ship, Scylla felt a storm growing in her chest. Since arriving in Ren's care, she had learned many things: letters, language, even her favorite fruit, but now her thoughts were no longer quiet. Old memories had started to rise. She stood alone in the reading room, staring at a painting Ren had shown her. It was from Earth. A group of children played near a river. They laughed, holding paper boats in their hands. The colors were warm. The scene was peaceful. She touched the frame gently, as if the painting could speak. Behind her, Ren entered the room carrying 2 cups of tea. He placed one on the small table beside her. You like that one, he said. Scylla nodded. It reminds me of something, but I'm not sure what. She sat on the couch, her fingers around the warm cup. Her eyes stayed on the painting. I had a dream last night, she said. What did you see? Ren asked. A tall tree with red leaves, she said slowly. Children were running around it. There was a woman nearby. She had silver bands on her arms. In a soft voice, she called me by a different name. Ren leaned forward. Do you remember the name? Scylla closed her eyes. Her lips moved, searching for something lost. I think it was Luma, she whispered. Yes, she called me Luma. Ren watched her carefully. He didn't speak. He waited. I think she was my mother, Scylla said. I don't know where that memory came from. Maybe it was always hiding inside me. It means it was never lost, Ren said. Only waiting. Scylla took a deep breath. I was not born in the royal house. I was taken. I was only 4 or 5, maybe. They changed my name. They told me I belonged to them, that I was chosen. She looked at her hands. But I was not chosen. I was stolen. Silence filled the room. Ren's face was calm, but his heart was heavy. You remember because your mind is healing, he said. And your heart is waking up. Scylla nodded slowly. It hurts, but it also feels real. Ren stood and walked to the bookshelf. He took out a small black journal and gave it to her. This is yours now, he said. Write what you remember, even if it's only one word. Scylla opened the book. The pages were blank. Waiting. Can I write both names? She asked. Scylla and Luma? Yes, Ren said. Both are part of you. That night, Scylla could not sleep. She sat on the couch with the journal in her lap. Her thoughts moved like fire-hot, wild, impossible to hold. She opened the book and began writing. Not full sentences, just words: tree, red leaves, band of, silver, river, Luma, home. Each word was a piece of her. Suddenly, she stood. She walked to the mirror near the door and looked at herself. She had always seen herself as property. Now she saw something different. Her face was her own. Her eyes were not empty. They were full of questions. She turned to the small table near the window. A candle burned there. She picked it up and held it in both hands. The flame danced, warm and alive. Scylla whispered to herself, I'm not a gift. I'm not a tool. I'm not what they made me. She held the candle high and said louder, I am. Scylla, I am Luma. I'm free. The next morning, Ren walked into the room and found her sitting near the window, the candle beside her, and the journal open. She had written many pages through the night. He did not speak at first. He simply sat across from her. I remembered more, she said. I can see that, Ren replied. I want to do something, she said. Not just for myself, for the others too. The ones still in chains, Ren nodded. Tell me what you're thinking. I want to speak to them, she said. To the other Carrie. I want them to know they are not forgotten, that they can remember too. That is a strong choice. Ren said, It's my choice, she said. Later that day, Sela and Ren walked through the Varn Palace. Many watched them, some with surprise, some with confusion. The Carrie who served in silence looked at her with wide eyes. Sela stopped in the center of the garden, where many Carrie worked. She stepped onto the stone platform near the water fountain. At first, no one spoke, but when Sela raised her hand, all eyes turned to her. I was like you, she said. I was trained to serve, not to speak. I was told I had no name, no voice, no home. The air was still, but I remembered, she continued. I remember my real name, my real home, and now I choose to speak. The guards nearby moved, unsure if they should stop her, but Ren stood beside them, his face calm, his voice firm. Let her speak. Sela looked at the others. You can choose to. You can remember. You can heal. One young girl dropped her basket and walked closer. Another followed. Soon, a group stood around the platform. No one spoke, but their eyes were bright. Sela stepped down and placed her journal on the edge of the fountain. This is my story, she said. Take it, read it, or write your own. Then she walked away with Ren. That night, stars shone brighter than before. Ren looked at Sela as she sat with her journal again. You lit a fire today, he said. Not to burn. Sela replied, to guide, and far beyond the palace walls. That small fire had already begun to spread. Lumi sat near the window of the small ship, watching the stars pass. Her eyes stayed open, but her thoughts drifted far away. She had started to remember more each day. Her past no longer felt like a dream. It was real. It was hers. Bren entered the cockpit with 2 hot packs of food. He placed one beside her. You didn't eat lunch, he said. I wasn't hungry, she replied. He sat across from her. You need to stay strong. We may not have many quiet days left. Lumi nodded. She knew he was right. They were not safe yet. The Syndicate would not give up. They had eyes in every system and ships in every port. One signal, one trace. And the hunt would begin. Bren tapped the ship's control panel. A soft beep echoed through the room. I picked up a message today, he said. A cargo ship was attacked not far from here. No one survived. Who did it? Lumi asked. Though she already guessed, Syndicate, Bren said. They're sweeping the outer systems, looking for someone. Lumi looked out the window. Again, me. Yes, he said. They know you escaped. They probably know you had help. That means we both have targets on our backs. Lumi stood up and walked to the center of the room. We can't keep hiding. We need to do something. Bren watched her closely. Do what? She turned to him, her voice calm but strong. We fight back. Bren raised an eyebrow. With what? We have one ship, low fuel, and no allies. What are we supposed to fight them with? Truth. She said, we don't need to win a war. We need to wake people up. Bren stood now too. You mean tell your story? Send a message? Lumi nodded. Yes. I know where the Syndicate keeps their records. If we could reach that place, we can find proof names, faces, routes, everything. We show the galaxy what they've done. Bren thought for a moment. You're talking about the archive. Yes, Lumi said. The hidden one. Deep under the old moon base near the Blue Ring system. Most think it's abandoned, but it's still active. That's where they keep their secrets. Bren scratched his head. That place is guarded heavily. Even getting near it would raise alarms. I know a way in, Lumi said. Through the maintenance shaft. I learned about it while in captivity. It's not on public maps. Bren let out a slow breath. You've been planning this for a long time. Since the day they took my name, she said. He looked at her for a long time. Then he nodded. All right, he said. We'll do it. 3 days later, they reached the outer ring of the moon base. The space around it was empty and quiet, but they knew it was not truly silent. Hidden sensors watched every corner. Patrol drones flew near the surface. One wrong move, and they would be caught. Brent shut off the main power and guided the ship in manually. No lights, no heat trail. Just a slow drift toward the far side of the moon. Lumi sat beside him, her hands ready on the scanner. There, she said. The old pipe. It's still there. Brent adjusted their path. The ship slid into the narrow gap and settled against the rock. They suited up and left the ship through the bottom hatch, climbing through the dark metal shaft one step at a time. Inside the moon base, the walls were old and cold. Lights flickered above their heads. The place smelled of dust and burnt fuel. They moved quietly, stepping around broken panels and loose wires. Lumi stopped near a large door. This is it, she whispered. The main vault is behind this wall. Brent opened his tool bag. I'll get it unlocked. As he worked, Lumi watched the hallway. She felt a strange mix of fear and focus. They were close now, so close. The lock clicked open. Brent pushed the door slowly, and the room beyond came into view. Rows of data cores lined the walls. Blue lights blinked. The air felt heavy, like it had not been moved in years. Lumi walked to the nearest console and plugged in a small drive. Her fingers danced over the keys. It's all here, she said. Shipping records, names, prison lists, locations of stolen colonies. This is the Syndicate's truth. Brent joined her. Can you send it? Yes, she said. But not from here. The signal would be blocked. We need to reach a free relay station. How far? About 6 hours from here, she said. If we move fast, they copied the files and turned to leave. But just then, the base lights flashed red. They found us, Brent said. Lumi's heart raced. We need to run. They moved through the tunnels as alarm sirens echoed behind them. Voices shouted. Boots stomped. The Syndicate was coming. They reached the ship and jumped inside. Brent powered up the engines. Lumi took the gunner. Seat 2 ships incoming, she said. Small patrol class. Hold on, Brent said as the ship lifted off. The enemy ships fired first. Bolts of red light passed near their wings. Lumi aimed carefully and fired back. One patrol ship spun out and crashed into the moon rock. They're calling for backup, she said. We won't stay long, Brent replied. Just need to reach that relay station. They pushed the ship to its limits, flying fast and low. Behind them, more ships began to follow. But Lumi's hands were steady, her eyes sharp. They broke past the outer ring and jumped into hyperspeed. Silence filled the cabin once again. Brent turned to her. Did we get what we needed? Lumi held up the drive. Yes, and we'll share it with the whole galaxy. Brent smiled. Then let them come. We're ready. The stars outside the relay station flickered like small candles in the dark. Lumi stood in front of the control panel, the data drive in her hand. Behind her, Brent watched the screen as power flowed through the system. This is it, Lumi said. Once we send this message, the Syndicate will know exactly where we are. Brent nodded. Then we don't waste time. We do what we came for, and we get out. The relay station was old and nearly forgotten. It had been built years ago for emergency broadcasts. Now, it would carry the truth across space. Lumi connected the drive to the terminal. The screen filled with files, names, locations, stolen shipments, hidden prisons. It was everything the Syndicate tried to keep secret. She looked at Brent. Ready? Send it, he said. Lumi pressed the final button. A green light flashed, and the message began to upload. Each file, each fact, each name was sent to every open relay station in the nearby systems. Within minutes, the truth had reached planets, ships, colonies, and even news networks. People would read it, people would talk, and some would act. Lumi stepped back. It's done. Brent looked at the scanner. But they're coming. 3 ships. Just dropped out of hyperspace. Then we fight, Lumi said. They rushed back to their ship. Bren took the pilot's seat. Lumi locked herself into the co-pilot station. Ready on weapons, enemy ships appeared behind them. Fast and well-armed, the lead ship sent a warning signal. Surrender now or be destroyed. Bren laughed softly. No thanks. He pulled the ship into a sharp turn. Lumi fired at the closest enemy. Sparks flew from its wing, and it spun off course. The second ship moved in fast. Lumi fired again, hitting its engine. It exploded in a burst of orange light. One more, she said. The last ship fired. A missile. Bren dodged just in time, but the shock wave hit their side. Alarms rang inside the ship. Lights flickered. We took a hit, Bren said. Shield is low. Lumi steadied her hand. I have one shot left. She waited. The enemy ship turned toward them. Closer, closer. Then she fired. The beam cut through the air and struck the ship in the center. It burst apart, sending pieces across the sky. Silence returned. Bren looked over. Nice shot. Thanks, Lumi said, breathing hard. Their ship shook again. Not from damage but from the energy around them. Bren checked the radar. Multiple ships are jumping in, he said. Lumi looked worried. Syndicate backup? He stared at the screen, then smiled. No, these are different, one by one. Small ships appeared on the screen. Their signals were mixed cargo ships, patrols, old fighters. But they all shared one thing. They were answering the message. The voice of a captain came through the radio. We received your signal. We know the truth. We are ready to stand with you. Another voice followed. My sister was taken by the syndicate. We've waited for this. More voices joined. Soon. The stars were filled with ships, not part of one army, but united by one truth. Lumi watched the screen, eyes full of light. They heard us. Bren nodded. We're not alone anymore. Lumi stood. Then let's lead them. The next few days moved quickly. Lumi and Bren worked with the new ships to share the message wider. People sent their own stories, proof of lost loved ones, stolen lives, and broken homes. Survivors stepped forward. Hidden prisoners were freed. The syndicate tried to stop the message, but it was too late. Truth had spread. On a quiet planet near the edge of known space, a group of elders saw the message. They were dressed in robes with silver bands on their arms. One of them looked at the image of Lumi on the screen. She is one of us, the elder said. She carries the voice of Reese. She survived, said another, and she is leading now. They sent back a message, simple and clear. We are here. Come home. In the heart of the syndicate. Panic began to grow. Their secrets were no longer safe. Their control was slipping. Some members turned on each other. Others tried to silence the voices, rising against them. But it was too late. The galaxy had seen the truth, and many were choosing to rise. Bren stood beside Lumi on the deck of their ship. Outside, dozens of ships floated in formation. They were ready, not for war, but for something stronger, a new beginning. Where do we go now? Bren asked. Lumi smiled. To the last home of Reese. You think they'll accept us? They will, she said, because we're not going as strangers. We're going as family. They set course for the hidden planet. As they flew, Lumi opened her old journal. She wrote new words. The forgotten are rising. The lost are returning. And the chains are breaking. She closed the book and looked ahead. The stars were no longer dark. The ship flew quietly through the deep stretch of stars. Lumi sat near the front window, her eyes fixed on the empty black. She had waited years for this moment. The message from the elders still echoed in her mind. We are here. Come home. Beside her, Bren checked the ship's path. His hands moved across the controls with steady care. Their destination was hidden behind 3 unmarked star clusters. No official maps showed it. No syndicate patrols dared to go there. Almost there, Bren said. 10 minutes to the final marker. Lumi gave a small nod. She felt something stir in her chest. It was not fear. It was something softer, something deep. Hope. They passed the 3rd cluster, and then the map changed. A small green light blinked in the distance. It was the hidden signal, the one only the elders could send. There, Lumi said, pointing. That's the path. Bren adjusted the course. The ship turned slowly. Then, through the thick mist of space dust, a planet appeared. It was blue, green, and gold, surrounded by quiet rings of silver rock. A small moon circled above. From a distance, it looked like a painting from a dream. Lumi stood. Her hand touched the glass. Reese, she whispered. Bren looked at her. You remember it? She shook her head gently, only in pieces. But it feels right. They flew closer. As the ship approached, a calm voice came through the radio. This is Guardian Base. Identify yourself. Bren replied. This is Captain Bren. Traveling with Lumi of Reese, we received your signal. There was a pause. Then the voice returned, softer now. Welcome home, Lumi. We have waited a long time. The ship landed on a soft hill covered in tall grass. A group of people stood waiting below. They wore light robes, some with silver bands on their arms and round their necks. Their eyes were kind. Some were old, some were young. Lumi stepped down first. The wind moved through her hair. The air smelled like flowers and fresh rain. An elder with white hair stepped forward. He looked at her, then bowed his head. I'm Rollo, he said. Keeper of the old names, we remember yours. He held up a small tablet. It showed a child's photo, faded but clear. The name below it read, Luma of House Iran. Lumi's hand shook as she took it. This is me, you were taken from. U.S., Rollo said. But you have returned with courage. Bren stepped beside her. Rollo looked at him and smiled. And you, the elder said, you brought her through fire. I just listened, Bren said. She did the rest. The elder nodded. Even a small act of kindness can change the path of history. The days that followed were quiet and warm. Lumi walked through gardens, old homes, and halls built from silver stone. Some parts of the city were still being rebuilt. Others had been untouched for years. The people of Reese had survived in silence, waiting for a sign. Now, they had one. Lumi shared her story with the council. She showed them the data drive, the messages, and the support they had gained. The elders listened carefully. When she finished, there were tears in many eyes. We cannot remain hidden, Rollo said. The galaxy needs truth. We must help others rise, Lumi replied. So a plan was made. Small ships would travel to nearby systems, carrying supplies, teachers, and messages of peace. Survivors from other colonies would be invited to join. A new alliance would form, not of power, but of unity. Bren helped train new pilots. Lumi taught young ones about the stars. Together, they built something new from the ruins of the past. One night, Lumi and Bren sat on a high cliff above the city. The moons were bright. The wind was soft below. Children ran through fields, their laughter filling the air. Lumi looked at Bren. Do you remember the first time we met? She asked. He smiled. You whispered to me. She laughed gently. And you actually listened. I didn't know what I was stepping into, he said. Neither did I, she replied. They sat in silence for a while. Then Lumi said, there are still many like me, still lost, still waiting. We'll find them, Bren said. We're not alone anymore. She looked at the stars above. I used to feel like I was nothing, a tool, a shadow. But now I know I am more. You always were, Bren said. You just needed space to grow. She smiled and leaned her head against his shoulder. Together, they watched the stars move slowly across the sky. In the months that followed, the story of Reese spread. Survivors came forward from many corners of space. Old voices returned. Songs once forgotten were sung again. And the syndicate once feared by all began to fall apart. People no longer looked away. They stood. They remembered. And they rose. On a quiet evening, Lumi walked alone through the garden. A young girl ran up to her, holding a small flower. For you, the girl said. Lumi bent down and took it gently. Thank you, she said. What's your name? My name is Ellen. The girl said proudly. That's a beautiful name. Lumi said. The girl smiled and ran back to her friends. Lumi watched her go, then looked up at the sky. She was no longer running. She was no longer in chains. She was home. And home was no longer just a place. It was a beginning.